To understand this vast conspiracy fully, you must first comprehend the truth about human evolution and human races. For that, I take you back 130,000 years into the past. It starts in Africa. Timescales given are a general approximation. A far triangle Africa. The first humans, Homo sapiens, were black Africans. They arose around 250,000 years ago in northeast Africa, the Afar Triangle, from their predecessor Homo heidelbergensis. A tribe of these first humans migrated out of Africa around 130,000 years ago during a globally warmer interglacial period. This is the out of Africa theory. They migrated to the north of Europe, Scandinavia. Tens of thousands of years later, another wave of these original humans migrated east from their African homeland. After decades of traveling along the coastline, they reached the territory we know today as southern India. The tribe in southern India divided. One group decided to keep moving. They advance further east and settle in Far East Asia. The same thing happens in Far East Asia. A tribal group divide and migrate southwards into Papua New Guinea, Australia. The black Africans had found their territories for millennia to come. To make this clear, black Africans habituate 5 different and isolated locations around the globe. Race map, 45,000 years before present. Those locations were Northeast Africa, Scandinavia, India, Far East Asia, and Australia, Papua New Guinea. 85,000 years passed from 130,000 years ago, and evolutionary changes have occurred to the African tribal gatherings in their non-African habitats. 45,000 years ago, in Northeast Africa, the African race does not appear to have changed from the original people. 45,000 years ago, in Scandinavia, they have evolved into a white-skinned, blue-eyed, narrow-nosed, blonde-haired, tall race with a large cranial capacity. 45,000 years ago, in India, Far East Asia and Australia, new races emerged with dark skin, hair, and eyes, like the original humans, as illustrated. Yes, 45,000 years ago there were 5 distinct races of humankind. Human root races, 45,000 years before present. Africans in North Africa, Scandinavians in Scandinavia, Indians in southern India, Far East Asians in Far East Asia, Aboriginal in Australia, Papua New Guinea. 45,000 years ago, the interglacial period was coming to an end. Extreme cold was working its way down from the north. The Scandinavian race had to migrate south. They advanced and spread out into the parts of Europe that could be inhabited. Scandinavian tribal groups then migrated east into Arabia, and to the far east of Asia. Racial mixing, outbreeding took place. Scandinavians mixed with Indians in Arabia and mixed with Far East Asians in Far East Asia. With this mixing arose ethnicities, Arabic in Arabia and Oriental in Far East Asia. These new ethnicities expanded in number and migrated back west. Arabs moved into North Africa, then migrated north into the Mediterranean zones we know as Greece, Italy, and Spain. As told, there were many small Scandinavian communities in Europe. So, in Greece, Italy, and Spain there was intermixing among Arab ethnicity and Scandinavian race. This formed the first ethnic Greeks, Italians, and Spanish, Mediterranean Europeans. Oriental people mixed with Scandinavian people in Eurasia, shaping the Slavic ethnicity. Europeans are predominantly racially Scandinavian, however, all have some degree of Indian or Far East Asian in their hereditary genetics. Individuals from the south of Europe today are a degree more Indian than those from the north of Europe, whilst individuals from the east of Europe are a degree more Far East Asian than those from the northwest of Europe. It is also a fact that Eurasians possess 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA, but that is another matter. This is the evolutionary information that the government does not want publicly debated. That is the reality of today's racial situation. There is no other viable way of explaining the present-day situation. Nazism. The Lebensborn program conducted by Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party was a eugenics program designed to breed out the dark genetics of the Indian and Far East Asian races from the European populace. Hitler wanted the pure original Scandinavian race back to inherit the earth. That was his vision. Genetics. Next, you must understand genetics and genetic conditions. It is not just humans blighted with detrimental genetic conditions, but all forms of life. By genetic conditions I mean problems like Down syndrome, spina bifida, multiple sclerosis, osteoporosis for example. Here and now we must work out why this is happening. The official response from our governments as to why this is the case is we do not know. There is no evolutionary purpose to genetic conditions, they are a fault, and the reason for this fault is because of breeds mixing with other breeds that are genetically different, even slightly so. This needs to be explained to you in detail as the average non-racial thinker will not understand how this can be the case. For instance, a breed of rabbits evolves in total isolation for thousands of years. Then they would become pure. They would have no genetic conditions. However, this is impossible in the world we know because there is always a rabbit from an outside pack that comes in and breeds with that pack. Outbreeding is rife in the natural world of animals. It means all rabbits will always have genetic problems among them. That is the natural animal world. Only life that is evolved in total isolation and become pure and then protected their breed by not breeding with any outsiders could keep themselves free of genetic disease. The original Scandinavians some 45,000 years ago were pure, but they outbred with the dark races from the east as outlined earlier. This destroyed their original purity. I must state it would be possible for scientists to bring back the original and pure Scandinavians by genetically stripping the foreign DNA from Nordic Europeans and perhaps producing clones of sorts. I will point out that a great white shark is a life form that is also pure. It has no genetic conditions. It has evolved perfectly to its environment and breeds with no others than other great whites. Animals in the wild all carry genetic conditions except very few. It is all down to mixing with different breed outside your group. That is the cruelty of nature. When a breed evolves in total isolation for tens of thousands of years, it becomes pure, and all genetic conditions are bred out. The government does not want this debated publicly. You will not hear this anywhere else but the corners of the internet. Spectralization. Anyone who has been privileged to live in Britain for a while would know some of the health issues that are of great concerns to the people. Spectrum disorders such as dyslexia, autism, ADHD and others have affected a great number of people in Britain. My finding, which may be seen as controversial, explains the reason why a large number of citizens of Britain have spectrum disorders like autism. I have discovered that unlike other countries in Europe, migration heavily contributed to the population of people living in Britain. Using this fact, I concluded that ethnic outbreeding could be the cause of the prevalence of spectrum disorders in Britain, more so than its European counterparts. To bolster my view, I would like to use an example. If we examined an average Irish, Spanish or German, they would all look exactly like people from their various nations ethnically. But that is not the case for an average Briton. If an average Briton is thoroughly examined, they would be a mixture of several ethnical groups, part Italian, part German, part French, part Irish, and others, predominantly, a mutt. Though a reality which might be perceived offensive, this outbreeding hereditary clearly brings to light why an average British possesses teeth misalignment. No offense is intended, but it's a reality that can be accepted by the humble of our kind. Amish. An analysis of Amish communities of North America shows units of interbred ethnic Nordic Europeans. I arrived at this conclusion knowing that autism disorder is expected to be found among the ethnic Amish, yet, no case of its existence has ever been recorded. The penny drops. A brief search about Amish and autism on any search engine would give you a clear understanding of this fact. Based on this, extensive interbreeding which is practiced by Amish creates an alignment of the fragile genetic formation of the brain resulting in the restoration of correct brain genetic alignment. A look at a nation like Brazil whose documented rate of ADHD tops the record in the world will explain to us the effect of having a country as an ethnic melting pot. Though this is what statistical record provided, we cannot conclude that it has the highest rate of ADHD. However, we look at it as an indicator of sorts. Spectrum disorders are a big challenge that the entire world is facing, and outbreeding appears to be the root cause. For that reason, a further scientific study of whether ethnic outbreeding increases this condition should be conducted. The politically correct governments will never investigate this, however, as it directly challenges multiracial society. Soon, spectrum disorders will surge in nations like Brazil and Britain that actively promote ethnic intermixing. But there will not be any alteration in countries like North Korea since they made immigration prohibited. Amish, on the other hand, will only record autism cases in their units if they allow foreigners in to produce children with their people. The high rate of ADHD in modern-day mixed-race people, where blacks and whites mix and reproduce, provides a stronger backup to the fact that ethnic and race outbreeding play the major role in the spectrum disorder increase. I placed my emphasis on modern-day mixed race, knowing that all ethnic Europeans are made up of mixed races as detailed earlier. Spectrum disorders emerge from the genetic transformation of the brain that resulted from ethnic mixing. An unnatural genetic rift is forming. Are there more traces of autism in the children of first-generation immigrants? Even though there is not much research about the link between autism and immigration, the relationship between autism and immigration can be traced to as far back as the 1970s. Let's expatiate on this using the following abstracts, in chronological order. Harper Williams 1976. In a survey on the occurrence of infantile autism in New South Wales, it was found that 21 to 9% of children had at least one foreign-born parent whose native language was not English. Gilberg et al. 1987. Urban children with autism more often than age-matched children in the general population had immigrant parents from exotic countries. Gilberg 1996. 15 of these children, 27%, were born to parents, at least one of whom had migrated to Sweden. Bernard Opitz et al. 2001. Discussion focuses on possible risk factors and psychosocial adversities for autism, such as a high frequency of caregivers who are foreign maids, the use of multiple languages, and the high level of punitive educational practices. Lauritsen et al. 2005. An increased relative risk of 1.4 was found if the mother was born outside Europe and in children of parents who were born in different countries. Mainberg and Veith 2006. The risk of infantile autism was increased for mothers aged more than 35 years, with foreign citizenship, and mothers who used medicine during pregnancy. Klevzon et al. 2007. The parental characteristics associated with an increased risk of autism and autism spectrum disorders included advanced maternal age, advanced paternal age, and maternal place of birth outside Europe or North America. There are reports along these lines from Canada as well. In fact, this was discussed in Interverbal's discussion of critiques of Fombon et al. 2006. To further proceed, there is a need that we ascertain if a real phenomenon is supporting these findings or just artifact. Can we prove the existence of the apparent association? If an association is proven to exist, can it be explained? There are lots of speculations which we'll discover in the abstracts. Some of the ideas will provide answers to the questions we couldn't answer earlier, while some speculations may be a mere objective conclusion by some readers. Finding these types of rationalization in old papers shouldn't come as a shock to us. See Kinney et al. 2008. Before we roll up the mat, let's take a brief look at Roberts et al. 2007, a study that tried to correlate autism with nearness to agricultural pesticide applications in the California Central Valley. In that study, the authors explained that there could be a possibility that the women examined may be disproportionately employed in agriculture. And immigrant women could be among the women, as they were also disproportionately employed in agriculture, which still points back at ethnic intermixing as the cause of many cases of spectrum disorders. This graph from MCHB explains that modern mixed-race people have the highest rates of ADHD, Dyslexia. Dyslexia in America is 20% but has been found to be nearly 30% in some areas. In Germany, dyslexia is only 5%, while in Great Britain, dyslexia is barely known. The British frown at the situation and throw the blame at inadequate schooling. Will the people ever recognize the realities of race? When will that be? Carlton Stevens Kuhn, OSS agent, Office of Strategic Services. Carlton Stevens Kuhn, born June 23, 1904, deceased June 3, 1981, age 76. In the field of anthropology, one of the most famous and highly acclaimed names is Carlton Stevens Kuhn. He was an American anthropologist. Because of his passion, dedication, and help from the OSS, he acquired incomparable success in this chosen career. Carlton Stevens Kuhn was a professor-lecturer at Harvard University, professor of anthropology at the University of Pennsylvania, American physical anthropologist, president of the American Association of Physical Anthropologists. However, most importantly to this video, Kuhn was a conspirator against Hitler's Nazi racial theory. Carlton Stevens Kuhn worked directly for the U.S. Secret Service OSS. His job as an agent was to popularize misinformation about race, to mislead the public against the true racial facts promoted by Hitler's Nazi Germany, essentially acting as a bulwark against the truth. Kuhn was, without doubt, a U.S. Secret Service disinformation agent. His views on race are wrong and purposefully so, a very clever man. Now, we get on to Kuhn's false racial theories that he successfully promoted. Reviewing Kuhn's Race Map 1962. It is wrong on so many levels. Human race's distribution map after the Pleistocene according to Carlton Stevens Kuhn 1962. The first race shown in green is the biggest deception on the map. There never was and never will be a Caucasoid race, because all Caucasoid are a mixture of three root races. Those being Scandinavian, Indian, Mongoloid. It is a sad attempt to deny that there ever was a pure blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white-skinned giant race from Scandinavia, pure propaganda. The Congoid and Capoid race shown in yellow and pink is wrong as they are both of the same race, that being Negroid. The area that is covered yellow and pink is correct for the Negroid as one singular race, although it is clearly not all their place of origin. The Far East Asian race shown in blue is partly correct. The Far East Asians did originate from Far East Asia and spread through the Americas. Where Kuhn goes wrong is where the Far East Asian zone covers half of India. People from India are racially Indian alone. There has been mixing between the Indians and the Far East Asians. These people are referred to as Indo-Chinese, like Thai people. The Americas was not the Far East Asian place of origin, it was migrated to thousands of years before present. The Aboriginal race is shown covering Australia and Papua New Guinea, however, it is also shown as a circular zone in northern India and in parts of Malaysia. This is the most obvious wrong on the map. Why on earth would the same race of people from Australia, Papua New Guinea end up in the north of India and Malaysia? It is ridiculous. If you are looking for an accurate race map of the world at the time of 45,000 years before present, here it is. What Kuhn shows in his race map is bizarre, a clear attempt to mislead the public. His race map is wrong. He is correct in that there are 5 races of man, but totally wrong about what they are. Kuhn in his writings tells of there being a Mediterranean race and that the area from Morocco to Afghanistan is their homeland and cradle. Mediterraneans are an ethnic group or sub-race, not a root race. Mediterraneans are people from the south of Europe, Spanish, Italian, and the Greeks, not Arabs from the area that he claims is their homeland and cradle. Kuhn's book The Races of Europe in 1939, same year as the beginning of World War II, was no doubt a government-aided bulwark against Hitler's racist but nevertheless true theory. There was only ever one European human race, that being Scandinavian. Using the works of Carlton Stevens Kuhn, many researchers gained an amazing source of lies for their projects. His work created a reinforcement for the current revitalization in the field of anthropology. Thus, his books are great achievements for multiracialism, anti-Nazism. That was his secret purpose, to create a white race even though there is not one. The races of Europe concluded that the Caucasian race comes with a dual origin, the Upper Paleolithic and the Mediterranean. Upper Paleolithic is the mixture of Neanderthals and Homo sapiens and are the original indigenous people from Europe, while the Mediterraneans are considered to be the Arabs and invaded Europe during the Neolithic period. Carleton knew what he was doing when it came to mislead the public. He was an expert. This book also states that today's racial situation in the continent of Europe can be effectively explained being the mixture of the survivors of Upper Neolithic and Mediterranean. As the reduced survivor of Upper Paleolithic mixed with the Mediterranean, a process called dinerization occurred. This process produced a hybrid that characterizes the non-intermediate features. Most of the Caucasian race encompass the huge regions of Europe, North Africa, Horn of Africa, South Asia, Central Asia, and the Near East. Also, a race called Nordic is a part of a Mediterranean race which is a mixture of Danubian and corded Mediterranean. There you have it, Carleton Stevens Kuhn, liar and OSS agent. The Roswell Incident. The Roswell Incident was the beginning of an elaborate conspiracy to make the public consciously or subconsciously believe in a superior extraterrestrial race with the purpose of it being to act as a bulwark against racialism. The Roswell incident was set up by the U.S. military intelligence agency to be perceived by the public as though the military had covered up the crash landing of alien ships and recovery of extraterrestrial bodies. It is an elaborate anti-racism deception that is only the beginning of what they have enacted through the years. All fabricated. There is no proof of any alien ships or carcasses. They are part of the anti-racism conspiracy, again spreading lies through their volumes. These authors are there to profit from lies, are a part of the anti-racism conspiracy or both, fundamentally propaganda ministers. Aided by ufologists, the U.S. military has created an ingenious plot in the Roswell incident to combat racism by making the public feel as though they could be biologically less advanced than another form of life. Genuinely that is how it appears. Robert Scott Lazar. Robert Bob Scott Lazar's extraterrestrial UFO tale is fascinating. He has a massive following, millions believe him. The reality is, he is a pathological liar with a long list of fantasies about working on the alien craft at Area 51S4. Lazar is a scientist that is factual, holding master's degrees physics electronics. Holding a thesis on magnetohydrodynamics MHD. He worked as a technician, then a physicist at Los Alamos in the polarized proton section that deals with particle accelerators. He has constructed a jet-propelled car and motorbike with a maximum speed of 350 miles per hour, as well as a vehicle that runs off hydrogen. He is a clever guy. Going public. Klaus is a Las Vegas TV channel Nevada that was contacted by Lazar in March 1989. He informed the reporter for the channel George Knapp he had worked on extraterrestrial flying saucers at the top-secret government Galileo program. He informed Klaus using the pseudonym Dennis that he was a specialist in reverse engineering on the alien technology and that this research has brought forward technological breakthroughs. This UFO technology allegedly came from 9 alien craft captured at the infamous 1947 Roswell incident in New Mexico. The story was televised on November 11-13. Lazar's claims has a master's degree in physics from MIT Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Was hired to work as a scientist at Area 51. S4 restricted areas. Worked on a flying saucer spanning 9 to 12 meters. Worked in a top-secret U.S. military program reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology and anti-gravity power propulsion craft. To have witnessed top-secret documents and the autopsies of aliens' corpses. browsed inside UFOs powered by Element 115 sat in their seats but found them far too small. Witnessed a test flight in which the craft flew a few simple maneuvers. Viewed secret documents showing gray alien involvement with mankind for over 10,000 years. Says aliens grays are from binary stellar system Zeta Reticuli 2. Past polygraph lie detector test apparently true. Has been shot at and had threats to his life. He reports that the crafts received power from an unsynthesizable element or with an atomic number of 115. This element is additionally a supply of the gravity A wave that then amplifies time, space/journey and distortion. This technique of travel additionally makes the craft invisible. The craft break Einstein's rule that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. Why? Bob Lazar could be a former government science person, that is a fact, but is he telling the truth about all these alien shenanigans? No, is the answer, but why is he being dishonest? Some say Lazar is a government operative whose purpose is to unfold misinformation regarding what goes on at Area 51. Others suppose he is trying to form money from it all. The reality is neither. The truth is he is an essential character in the ongoing conspiracy to quash racism by making the people believe consciously or subconsciously in a superior alien extraterrestrial race. This conspiracy started with the Roswell incident in 1947 that was additionally staged by the U.S. intelligence services. The plot worked as a CNN poll in 1997 found most people believed aliens had visited Earth and landed at Roswell. He is working for the CIA. Liar. He may well have worked for the U.S. government at Area 51 at some point, but the whole alien craft debacle is utter nonsense. There were no UFOs recovered from Roswell. He was likely conscripted by someone in the U.S. intelligence agency CIA to make up these elaborate lies, perhaps even paid to do this. He is an intelligent person and a skilled liar. Too many of his lies are credible. A cover-up. There is evidence of a cover-up. His birth records, college transcript, and employment records have become erased from history, including those of his time with Los Alamos National Laboratories and through EG&G. I believe this was designed by the military intelligence services to give grounds to his false claims against the state. It is all about how it is perceived by the public. It comes across to the general public as if the state has deleted his files, which give his off-the-wall claims a lot of credibleness. These documents were purposefully erased by the CIA to make his story more credible. On his personal website, he goes into detail about the alien vessels, claiming them to be powered by antimatter reactors and that the seats were too small for adults. This is where the gray alien tale enters the conspiracy. He is trying to tie the conspiracy that started in 1947 at Roswell together. That's his job as a conspirator. His tall tales get publicity from the government-dominated national media outlets. To take part in a bizarre global conspiracy to deceive the masses of people is certainly wrong in my thinking. It was bound to be exposed eventually. Lazar's supporting evidence is considerable. Lazar comes across as very credible, having a solid background in physics, electronic engineering, and propulsion systems. He provides a great amount of detail in describing his employment, the base, his co-workers, and the alien craft itself that would be difficult to fabricate, but not for himself with help of the CIA. Credibility was added to Lazar's testimony as repeated reports of bizarre lights were seen maneuvering beyond the capacity of known aviation tech. These are genuine reports. These reports were even chronicled in Aviation Week Space Technology. Lazar's lies started a UFO stampede that continues to the present day. Apparently, Lazar has tried to put the UFO tales behind him and has been discredited in the eyes of some critics, but it is a story that simply won't disappear. Lazar claimed to have worked at the Los Alamos National Laboratories, but no record of his employment there was found. However, his name appears in an old telephone directory of Los Alamos scientists. An article in a July 1982 edition of the Los Alamos Monitor, which shows a picture of Lazar near a jet car and refers to his employment as a scientist with Los Alamos. There are also Los Alamos employees who informed CLOS TV's George Knapp that they remember Robert Scott Lazar. Lazar reports in an interview that the alien crafts fly by amplifying gravity waves. According to Lazar, the UFO saucer was moved because of a reactor placed on the floor. As a fuel, the saucer would have an element with atomic number 115. The gravity wave, which is amplified for space/time distortion and travel, also comes from this element. This kind of propulsion allows making the flying saucers invisible and not needing to travel in a linear model. It means they can cover a huge distance in very little time. In physics, speed is defined as distance divided by time. These UFO vehicles operate by warping time and space itself. They go against Einstein's rule that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. Barney and Betty Hill. This article exposes what happened in the remarkable 1961 Barney and Betty Hill alien abduction case. Their alien abduction tale links to the 1947 Roswell incident and the testimonies of Robert Scott Lazar. All three are parts of an American military intelligence agency conspiracy to create a bulwark against racism by making people believe consciously or subconsciously in a biologically more advanced alien race. I think Barney and Betty were working for the U.S. military intelligence agency, in the same respects as Robert Lazar is and the supposed witnesses to Roswell were in 1947. If the intelligence services can deceive the population into believing in a biologically more advanced alien race, it will succeed on an international level to subdue racism by getting people to think they could be less biologically superior to another form of life, extraterrestrial life, an ingenious scheme. That is the founding theme of this conspiracy. This alien abduction is referred to within the UFO community as the Hill abduction or Zeta Reticuli incident. Barney and Betty's tall tale. In 1961, Barney Hill was a 39-year-old black African male Ethiopian by birth, employed by the United States Postal Service. He also sat on a local board of the U.S. Civil Rights Commission. His wife, Betty Hill, was a 41-year-old Caucasian female who had a master's degree in child welfare and worked in that area as a supervisor. The Hills were an interracial couple. Barney was black, Betty was white. This fact is used by some disbelievers, including myself, to claim that Barney could well have been experiencing public ridicule and stress due to that race union, which caused him to take part in this cunning anti-racism conspiracy. Interracial relationships and marriages were not as accepted in the 1960s as they are today. Conclusion: the Hills genuinely took a vacation to Canada, but the rest of their story is outright lies. There was no light in the sky, no aliens, no abduction, no magnetic spots on the car, no nightmares, no missing 2 hours, no UFO detected by the Air Force. It is all a fabrication. If you debunk this bulwark against racism theory, you must ask yourself, for what valid reason did their ridiculous story get so much press attention? Did the Air Force detect a UFO in that area the same night? Why can we not find the 2 reporters who interviewed them? Why did the Hills not call the police straight away? Where is the proof of the magnetic spots on their car? Why would the U.S. military be interested in such outlandish claims? Why would an Air Force major recommend time regression hypnotherapy? Why has this bulwark against racism conspiracy theory not been published before? The Allies after World War II allowed Germany to become an industrialized nation to act as a bulwark against communism. These allied superior alien race lies act as a definite bulwark against racism. Intelligence agencies have the power to conscript people into saying and doing things for them. Reporters, politicians, psychiatrists, military personnel, anyone can be recruitable, and national secrets stay national secrets. Barney and Betty Hill are part of a continuing U.S. military intelligence agency plot to create a bulwark against racism. The same thing happened at Roswell and with Robert Lazar. The aliens that supposedly abducted the hills are the same as those depicted at Roswell and those talked about by Robert Lazar the Greys. It is all designed to be linked together by the public psyche. The bulwark against racism conspiracy worked, as a CNN poll in 1997 found the majority of the population believed aliens had visited Earth and landed at Roswell. Apparently, the people want to believe it visited Earth and landed at Roswell. Apparently, the people want to believe. Part 8 NASA. Reminiscing, it must have been around the year 2000 when I first viewed the video NASA Star Wars Defense shoots at UFO in orbit shown. I was around 19 years old and came to see the video on Channel 4 News ITN-British State TV. I remember, the newsreaders were Samira Ahmed and Krishnan Guru Murphy. Krishnan introduced the NASA video to the viewer. After that I watched him grinning. He then passed the audience to Samira, and she was seen grinning back to Krishnan. Then they continued with a separate story. These two newsreaders are not directly involved in the conspiracy. However, they knew what was going on. The footage issued by NASA is not genuine. It has been faked for the same reason. The purpose is an ongoing conspiracy to combat racism by making the population believe in a superior alien race. It all fits. The Roswell incident, alien abductions, Bob Lazar's testimonies, NASA's fake videos. The footage of the planet Earth and the background stars is genuine. It is the white dots of lights that move around that are not real. These white dot lights have been put there afterward in a digital FX studio. This faking of such an original video in black and white is very simple to do if you have a computer with the correct software. It does not take much to do it. Also, it is impossible to prove that the video has been manipulated as it is of a digital nature in origin. The clip appears as though an alien craft descends to the outer atmosphere of the Earth, then a flash. Then, what seems to be a missile shoots at the alien ship from the surface of the planet. But the alien craft then zooms away. The conspiracy is a bulwark against racism. Ingenious, but also sorrowful. Pleiadians. The United States of America's government wants you to think extraterrestrials are living among us on Earth. It is all designed to act as a bulwark against racism. These tall tales have been promoted by government-dominated media outlets countless times. These fantastical aliens are said to be of the extraterrestrial Pleiadian race, which are a species of humanoids from outer space that physically resemble ethnic Nordic Europeans. Some claim they are angelic. UFO enthusiasts claim they have been depicted in ancient civilizations and religions many times. Other names circulating for these Pleiadian extraterrestrials in the UFO communities are tall whites or space brothers. Pleiadian characteristics. The Pleiadians have blonde hair, blue eyes, are usually quite tall, and they communicate through dreams and thoughts. Most reports of encounters with the Pleiadians are of them being long-haired males in top physical shape and wearing skin-tight clothing. Supposed contactees promote them as a benevolent species. There are some unacknowledged claims about the Pleiadians. It has been argued they lack iris, and because of that they wear contact lenses when visiting Earth. Another claim is they lack any sense of smell. Bulwark against racism. There is a conspiracy by the allied U.S. government to create a bulwark against racism by making the population believe in a biologically more advanced race, the Grey. This Pleiadian ET theory could also be a part of the same conspiracy. It could be a way of masking the existence of a real Nordic race to quash racism. That is the sad reality. Yes, in my opinion, the whole thing is a conspiratorial bulwark against racism devised by the U.S. intelligence services that started just after the end of World War II with the defeat of the Aryan Third Reich. If they can get people to feel biologically less advanced than another form of life, it will work on a global scale to subdue racist sentiment. The myth of the Pleiadians. The tale goes like this: these Nordic aliens came from the Pleiades, which is the surrounding stellar system to the Pleiadian stars, a star cluster that is 400 light-years away from the Taurus constellation and is just 150 million years old. They are part of a galactic federation, and they are concerned about the future of the Earth. It was in the 1950s when people who claimed to have been in contact with these Pleiadian aliens began appearing. Many of these people supposedly contacted could well have been working for the U.S. intelligence services to get the bulwark against racism conspiracy rolling. Not all claims of abductions and encounters are intelligence agency backed. Ones that get massive media coverage do appear to be, in my opinion, racial reality. Some claim that the stories of Pleiadians are a means of articulating racially based fears. I think the opposite of that is exact. The Pleiadian tale is a U.S. government intelligence agency-inspired conspiracy to act as a bulwark against racism. People are not going to think more racially because they believe in Pleiadians, they are going to feel the opposite. Conclusion. So, in answer to the question, who are the Pleiadian Nordic aliens? They are an allied U.S. intelligence agency devised a plot to quash racism on an international level. JFK assassination. Strong rumors appear on the internet about JFK's assassination. He found out what happened at Roswell and then intended to go public with it. The murder of JFK appears very odd. It seems to clean cut, if you know what I mean, to perfect. It looks as though it has been scripted, set up. The significant part that is odd is that the 3 shots fired in such quick succession that they could not possibly have come from just one sniper. Don't doubt there were 2 shooters. In my opinion, both were American Secret Service men, and none of them were named Lee Harvey Oswald. There was an assassin on the grassy knoll. JFK got assassinated by his very own Secret Service. The reason he was killed was that he had discovered what happened at Roswell and had decided to go public with that information. He believed the public deserved to know the truth. He was a good president. Lee Harvey Oswald, the framed killer of JFK, was just a patsy. He was entirely innocent of that crime, although he was undoubtedly a Marxist. He was framed for the killing by the intelligence agency. It was all pre-planned, scripted, his framing, his arrest, his murder. Lee Harvey Oswald was assassinated by Jack Ruby under the orders of U.S. intelligence. Jack Ruby was a dying man. He had cancer. It was his chance to make a place for himself in history. Summary: our governments deny there ever being a Scandinavian race. They are content in their lies. Deceiving the masses means nothing to them. From the Roswell incident through to the fake NASA UFO footage, the Allied state is trying to get you to believe in a superior alien race to combat, defeat, subdue racism by making you think you could be inferior to a higher form of life, that being alien extraterrestrial life.